Madam Clerk?
Mayor Beagle,
Present?
Deputy Mayor Resnick,
Present.
Councilmember Behrman,
Present.
Councilmember Gacho, Councilmember O'Day. Here. Councilmember Grunman Fox and Sharp are excused.
Thank you. Changes or additions to the agenda as presented tonight. City Manager Brown?
I have none, Your Honor.
Assistant City Manager Benson?
I have none, sir.
Any from the dais? All right. Moves us to the business portion of the meeting tonight. First set of, we have one set of minutes to approve tonight, and that's from the regular city council meeting on March 25th, 2025. Do I have a motion? So moved.
Support.
Any discussion? Seeing none, I got a motion and a second to approve the regular city council meeting minutes of March 25th, 2025. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We have no correspondence tonight, which moves us to the city manager reports. We have two tonight. The first one is the fire report from February 2025. Any questions for the chief? All right, police report. Any questions? You guys are getting off too easy, man, I tell you. Consent agenda. All items listed under the consent agenda are considered routine by the city council and will be enacted by one motion. There'll be no separate discussion of these items unless the council member so requests, in which the event the items will be removed from the consent agenda and added to the regular agenda at the end of unfinished or new business. Do I have a motion?
Support.
All right, I got a motion and support to approve the consent agenda as presented tonight. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. It moves us to the first call to the public. I'll read the rules to the call to the public. They are as follows. The public shall address the council during the call to the public, which shall be included on the agenda immediately after correspondence and again immediately after new business. The first call to the public immediately after correspondence shall be limited to agenda items only. A person shall not address the council in excess of 5 minutes unless the time is extended by a majority vote of the council present. Persons wishing to address the council shall identify themselves and their place of residence and state their reason for addressing the council, and all comments by the public shall be made directly to the council. Do we have anybody for the first call to the public? Seeing none, I'll close the first call to the public, and we'll move on. We have no unfinished business tonight. The first item of new business tonight is the submittal of the city manager's proposed fiscal year 2025-2026 budget and setting May 27th, 2025 as the date of the public hearing regarding the budget. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Very good. Marilyn?
Good evening.
Good evening.
As you said, tonight is the night that we submit the preliminary budget that's included in the charter, to do that by the first meeting of May. So I'll go through a few highlights that are in the budget, just a brief overview, and then we'll ask you to set the public hearing for the last council meeting in May. So the first slide that we're looking at is going over our taxable values and the changes that we saw this coming into this year. We have an overall increase of 5.75% in our values. Residential property went up by 5.87%. Our commercial and industrial property increased by 4.8%. Personal property also went up by 8.57%. And our industrial facility tax property went up by 13.44%. We still realize revenue from the local community stabilization fund that took over the industrial manufacturing personal property. That has all been phased off of our rolls, and we estimate receiving $680,000 from that revenue source next year. The city has a very variety tax base. We're still sitting at 45.36 commercial industrial, 42.85% residential, and 10.5% personal property, and 1.28% industrial facility taxes. The total city millage in 2025 is proposed at 13.2503. This reflects an increase from the prior year of 1.3643, which is directly related to the increased road millage that was approved in November 2025 election. I've provided a snapshot back to 2019-20 to show the changes that have taken place. And we currently, when compared to Oakland County tax rates for other cities, and keep in mind, we're comparing to their 2024 tax rates, because the 2025s have not been established or published yet. When we compare to those rates, we stand at 10th, and the rates range from 8.3463 to 33.703. So still in good standing, even with the increase to the road millage. Proposed revenue for fiscal year 25-26 shows an increase of $716,063, or 4.5154%, when we compare to the estimated actual fiscal year 24-25. Property taxes are up 4.72% by just over $478,000. Our state shared revenue for an LCSA up about $45,000. Building permits, $146,000. The library services charge just up a little over $2,200. Contribution from the DDA just under $8,000. The library contribution to OPEB and pension bond payments up just over $3,000. Services for water wastewater just below $40,000. And charge for services to solid waste, just $262 for inflationary. Our highest revenue is taxes and special assessments, which sits at 64.07% of our total revenue collections, followed by state shared revenue, which makes up 16.19%. Those are our two largest revenue sources, and then we have, miscellaneous revenues making up the remainder. As for state shared revenue, going by what the state of Michigan estimates for next year, we're up $45,424. And this is just a chart to show how those changes have occurred over back to 2002, 2023. And the last 4 years, we've seen an increase over time just because of the census results with the higher population. Proposed expenditures are increasing overall by $475,365, or a 2.75% compared to the estimated actual for 2024-25. This chart just provides by department increases. The majority increases that we see are staffing, wages, fringes, various projects, some consultants and personnel, and those are that's illustrated in the budget highlight letter, which is in your budget book in the very front. And there's some charts in there that show by department what those differences are comprised of, so you can look at more detail of what makes up those changes. The general fund will reflect the estimated balance at the close of fiscal year 25-26 of $6.2 million, or 34.95% of expenditures. The DDA continues to have increased development, and they continue to pay for the DDA bond payment and also reimburse the general fund for services that the city provides. The amount in the budget for that this year is $265,000, and that also includes the continued funding of one DPW equipment operator position that they entered into a couple of years ago. The budget stabilization fund reflects an estimated balance at the close of the fiscal year of just over $1.4 million, or 7.95% of expenditures. This budget does include a proposal for 3 additional full-time positions. We're currently sitting at 61 full-time employees. This would raise that to 64. The 3 positions that are being requested is a police officer position, which would specifically be a second dedicated traffic officer. The capital projects manager, we're revisiting that since the local road millage was approved in November, and a DPW heavy equipment operator. As for the solid waste and recycling service rates, when going over what our expenditures are slated to be next year, We are proposing a $183 fee, which is an $11 increase over last year's rate, which was $172, and that again will be assessed on the summer tax bill. Sewer rates will remain the same. We did again the rate study with UFS Services, and cash reserves are high enough that they recommend foregoing an increase on the sewer side again this year. The residential sewer caps and sewer-only customers will also remain the same to match that request. Water utility rates are proposed at $43.95 per unit, and that will represent about a 3.5% overall increase from last year. And that's pretty consistent with, we're gonna see an increase from the Great Lakes Water Authority for the water supply that we bring in, so that's consistent with keeping up with covering our charges. For the 10-year capital improvement plan, we are requesting a $1.35 million normal contribution along with an additional contribution of $650,000 for a total of $2 million. The projects are shown in the chart, and total expenditures will be just over $5.5 million. Number is quite high because it does include the West End Commons project, which is primarily covered by grant revenue coming in and DDA contributions and things of that nature. For the most part, it's building improvements, carpeting, tiling, park improvements, vehicles, and things of that nature. For major and local road and safety path capital, we're showing a budget for major roads of $944,564. Local roads for just under $3.5 million to include paving at Hillsborough, Millstream Estates, some overall general concrete repairs, and pavement preservation. Safety path, $1.24 million for the Wixom Road Railroad crossing, completing the North Wixom path that was approved earlier, Pontiac Trail pedestrian island engineering, and just overall repairs. And that completes the overview of the highlights. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. And we have a budget session scheduled for next week, April 15th at 6 p.m.
Any questions? Yeah. Yeah, we'll save for the 15th.
Got some things to read by then.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I have a motion and a second to approve the submittal of the city manager's proposed fiscal year 2025-2026 budget and setting May 27th, 2025 as the date of the public hearing regarding the budget. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. New business number 2 is a recommendation to accept a low qualified bid from DMC Consultants Incorporated of Detroit, Michigan for the Gunnar Metella Park improvements at a cost of $565,455.85 from Gunnar Metella Park Improvements account number 401-751-974.543. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Very good. Ms. McGee?
As the mayor just noted, with the motion is the recommendation to approve the low bid. With that bid, it includes a replacement pavilion for the large pavilion, an additional pavilion at the trailhead that's 20 by 20, a shade shelter, and path improvements, ADA path improvements.
Very good. Any questions? Deputy Mayor Resnick?
Thank you. Ms. McGee, in terms of Gunnar Metalla as a whole, what's left then after this work if it gets approved tonight?
The remaining feature we'll be discussing in the budget session on Tuesday is for the fitness park that we had blocked in last year. At that, we also have a donation from the Wilson Foundation through the Trailway Council for $75,000 towards that. So that will be the end of the improvements at that park until the water main goes in.
Oh, thank you.
Anybody else? Very good, thank you. I've got a motion and a second to approve the recommendation to accept the low qualified bid from DMC Consultants of Detroit, Michigan for the Gunnar Metella Park improvements at a cost of $565,455.85 from Gunnar Metella Park Improvements Account number 401-751-974.543. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. New business number 3 is a recommendation to accept the proposal from Detection Systems and Engineering, DSE of Troy, Michigan, for camera, access control, and alarm systems for the city buildings in the amount of $476,646 and award DSE the monitoring, maintenance, and inspection services on the systems for 3 years with an option to renew for 2 additional years. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Mr. Sickma.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There. Yes, this is a request to hire DSE for a period of up to 5 years for our security systems. What we've identified over the last few years is our burglar alarm systems, the video surveillance, and the door locking systems within the city complex have been are antiquated and in need of repair and replacement. So with the help of many people in the city, we asked for different proposals throughout the last year, and we did have 2 respondents that came in and actually submitted bids for this work. The one that we felt most comfortable with is DSE, and they come well recommended by other communities in the area, and we feel that they can support us the best. I've invited John Rathwell here tonight to do a short presentation and just show exactly what they'll be doing for us. And I do want to thank especially Frank Carmen in the audience tonight for all his work from the police aspects of things that he did on this. So with that, it will be open. After the presentation, it'll be open for questions.
Perfect.
Thank you, Tim. That's right. Thank you. My name's John Rathwell. I'm president of Cohen Arbor Detection Systems Engineering. We've been working with the city for about the last year, doing surveys, estimates, working with various department heads on what your city's needs are as far as upgrading your current security systems. Some of the needs that were identified by Tim, Frank, and the department heads were upgrade your camera systems to the latest industry standards. Many of your camera systems that you have now are fairly antiquated. Some of them are analog cameras. We're looking at upgrading those to digital cameras, which would give you 4K high definition and analytics, which can be used by the police department for various things if incidents take place. The Wixom Library actually already uses this system, or we're going to kind of expand on that as we add additional cameras to the system. We'll add server software, additional cameras to round out the system for the entire city. We're going to upgrade and replace the burglar and fire alarm systems in each of the buildings. The camera and card access system will also have a mobile app, which will allow city leaders to be able to call up cameras right from their phones if they have the right credentials to do that. Be able to call up the access control systems if they need to lock down a building or unlock a door if need be. We're going to upgrade the security at the city-operated parks, cameras which will be in the pavilion areas, at the courts, and in the restroom areas, as well as put auto lock doors on the bathroom doors so that Chief Langmeyer's police officers don't have to lock the doors each night and unlock the doors each morning. We're going to standardize the access control systems. You've got kind of a hodgepodge of access control systems now, and we're actually going to be able to use many of the components you've got already: police station, city hall, community center, rec center, or library, and DPW, and be able to reuse many of the boards, cabling, many of the components that are already there. And then add surveillance cameras at critical areas outside of buildings to give you better views of what's going on. The parks, as I mentioned, and then the police department detention area, which would allow you to have better observation of what's going on there. The cameras for the police detention area would also have microphones in them, so you'd be able to not only have audio or visual, but audio as well. Is it moving?
Press escape. It's not going well.
That would take the monitors out. We gotta get through here.
Yeah, yeah.
They have to work on this.
Yeah. Oh, that's the last one?
That's all I got. So my company, Detect Systems and Engineering, we were founded in 1967. We're based in Troy. My business partner's father started us. And for 58 years, we've been providing security, integrated security for municipalities, financial, commercial, industrial, higher ed, and healthcare. That's our main business. We don't do residential. We don't do retail. It's municipalities, commercial buildings, industrial buildings. We're licensed by the state of Michigan to be able to provide those services. We have 20 employees at our Troy office. We also have an office in Lansing, Michigan, which includes project managers, technicians, sales, engineering, and admin staff. We're ranked in the United States as one of the top 25 fastest growing security integrators and one of the top 100 largest security integrators. And we're qualified to do municipal work for a number of reasons. Number one, our employees are all background checked, they're fingerprinted, and their criminal justice information system cleared so that they can work in detention areas. We got a Google Earth image here of your city and each of the buildings that we'd be doing work in. The little bubble on there kind of explains what we're doing in each of the areas. But for the most part, at each of the three parks, Gilbert Willis, Gunnar Metella, and Sibley Square across the street, Gilbert Willis and Gunnar Metella will be putting new cameras, I said again, in the pavilion near the court area and watching the outside of the restrooms. And then we'd have an automatic locking system on the restroom doors as well. At the fire department, new cameras, card readers, fire alarm. Old DPW building, I know that you've got some areas there where residents can park some of their RVs and whatnot outside of there, so we'd have cameras on the outside of that to watch that, as well as a couple card readers to get into the building. Your current DPW building, upgrading the cameras, the card access, and the burglar and fire alarm systems. And then Gibson House down here in the Wire House, we'd be putting new burglar and fire alarm systems in that building, in those two buildings as well. And then the City Hall, Police Department, Community Center, and Library would get upgrades on their camera systems, card access, and burglar alarm systems as well. Questions on any of that, system design?
How hard is it to make improve, because like we have the West End Commons going in, but I don't see anything going in the West End Commons. How hard is it gonna be to include cameras and stuff over there once we get it set up?
I mean, that's really just an expansion of the system. You could expand all of these systems, any new buildings that you have, but it's just really an expansion of the system.
Okay. And then I noticed like on several of these, the card readers, the prices vary on each of them. Is that because of the number of card readers that will be? Okay.
Correct, yep. Some buildings have a couple card readers, other buildings have 16, 18 card readers.
Okay. Yeah, very good.
Yep.
Councilmember Behrman.
Thank you. Actually, I think the Weston Commons and I think potentially the Airline Trail are two areas that seem to be overlooked with any kind of surveillance. Is there a reason that those weren't included?
Yeah, the only reason we didn't include those right now was we do not have those in our system currently. But again, that is an upgradable system, and we would be able to do it at a later date.
I mean, do we currently have a fire and burglar alarm in the Gibson House and the Wire House?
We do.
And then, I mean, I would think that, especially with the issues we've had downtown, having some cameras along the airline trail there would be something we should really look at including.
We could consider that.
And especially when the Weston Commons comes online. And then the other thing would be, I guess I just didn't understand why the old DPW building, which is just cold storage, is so expensive compared to the new feed.
So all of the monitoring that we have at DPW currently are not digital, so they all have to be upgraded. We have seven video cameras there now, and
The old building?
they're pointed out towards the RV storage, so that we can I guess
Are we
monitor those.
including enough money in RV storage to cover that expense?
There, there's $1 a day times 40 RV residents, so I think that, it would, the
That
expense
was
will
the
be
only thing
covered
that
that way.
seemed off. But I think if we could at least figure out what it would cost to put some cameras on at least the trails through the downtown area, I think that would be beneficial.
So we are going, actually installing this summer, a counter for the airline trail right at Mac Park. But, that would be the only monitoring we currently were doing, but we can definitely look into it.
Just piggyback before, at the RV park, do they sign a contract, and if something happens to the trailer, are they responsible, or does it come back to
Yeah.
the city? Okay,
Yes, they are still responsible
Okay.
for that, and they need to be insured before they are
okay.
able to store them there.
All right, Deputy Mayor Resnick, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Following up on some of those questions, I know there's a proposed comfort station in the West End Commons. Will that also be outfitted with the automatic locking, unlocking system?
That is currently the plan, yes.
And then, I can't really read this from this distance, but one problem area that I see pretty much on a weekly basis over at the Habitat is late at night, you'll see cars parked back there with their lights off. And I was wondering if that is also included in that parking area.
That has not been included either, and we can look at that and get those quotes to see if we can do something similar to what we have proposed at Gunner and Gilbert Willis.
I would look real close at that. I know I've talked to some of the police officers before about just checking it occasionally.
Yes.
I know there's handoffs for children and stuff that go on, but there's also always looks like there's something unsavory going on there.
That would work. Yeah,
Right.
we can do that.
Right. Thank you. One last question too on the upgrades then. So let's say in 4 more years, something changes dramatically with imaging technology. You're saying that these systems will be retrofittable and upgradable?
Yeah, typically, technology in our industry, I've been doing this about 38 years now. Technology changes 5 to 7 years typically is a good run for that. I mean, camera technologies continue to get better, and the cost of that continues to come down, which is good. But the system is expandable, and we realize that. We've got other municipalities, these are some of our current customers we have, but other municipalities at the very top there that we do work with. So we recognize that they need to be expanded. Your security needs are going to continue to, the world's not getting any safer. Right? So you continue to probably add to this system. One of the interesting ones on there is Ypsilanti Township, where they've put a Safe City initiative in place where local HOAs actually pay to have cameras put on corners near bus stops, elementary school bus stops. And we work with Detroit Edison, Comcast, and then we install the cameras to put them in. And we've got about 50 cameras throughout the township of Ypsilanti, which each of the little HOAs pay for, and it comes back to the sheriff's department there.
How long has our library been using the technology now?
That's probably been at least 5, 6, 7 years.
Okay.
And it's a company called Motorola Vigilance,
Right,
which is
Andrea?
recognized as one of the.
Andrea, come on up.
We have been on the system since 2008, and then or not 2008, 2018. And then we actually just expanded and added additional cameras, updated the software, but our existing cameras still work within that new, the new upgrades and everything. We didn't have any issues with that upgrade, and it's worked well. We've had to use it on multiple occasions, so.
Thank you for the testimony.
Yeah.
So with the library system, it would be one unified system for the city, working off the same software.
Councilmember Gaccio?
Thank you. In looking over the cost matrix, I noticed that the surveillance camera monthly monitoring for Sibley Park was quite a bit higher than all the other monthly costs. The others range like $40.52 per month, and Sibley is at $616.
That is a typo.
Okay.
Yeah.
What should-
There is no monthly cost to Sibley Square.
Zero. Okay.
Zero. Yeah,
Okay.
that is a typo.
That kind of spurred my second round of thoughts there, because it wouldn't, I mean, we're talking about other areas that I agree with some of them, like the habitat, and, you know, maybe we can dial back on the old DPW building, what, if it's the number of cameras going in that's kind of lifting that cost, but, I don't know if we have them, and the police chief can correct me, but I know with events that we have, like the night and concerts, that we have had some issues. Do we currently have any like high pole cameras on trailers that we can wheel out, or is that something we should be discussing as we're discussing West End Commons and other things?
Well, currently, we don't have any kind of cameras like that, no, that we can deploy at big events. We just don't have we have very few events here. This system here will have them over there. We'll be able to monitor them.
Okay.
The cameras we have there now are, some of them, correct me if I'm wrong, were indoor cameras that were put outside by our last contractor.
Ring
They were
doorbell.
up and down, just analog. You couldn't even see anything out of them.
Okay.
So this will improve our ability to watch the parks
Okay.
much better.
All right, thank you. And then for the fire alarm inspections column, is that something that staff can't be taught what to do, or fire department can't?
No.
No? Okay.
Yeah, it's got to be certified technician.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And yeah, the typo on Sibley Square, I think it shows $616 a month there. That's a typo, because your total monthly monitoring cost is only $328 total for the city. So that's a big typo. Yeah.
Councilmember O'Day?
Thank you. No questions, just like Andrea, we'll give a little testimonial here, even though I didn't know who had been brought in tonight. I used DSE in my other life, and they've always been great. And as far as an expansion component, we've built on our existing system years after year, and upgrades, and very good. Service, always very responsive, so we're very pleased.
Good to hear. Any other discussion, questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing none, I've got a motion and a second to approve the recommendation to accept the proposal from Detention Systems and Engineering, DSE of Troy, Michigan, for camera, access control, and alarm systems for city buildings in the amount of $476,646, and award DSE the monitoring, maintenance, and inspection services on the systems for 3 years with an option to renew for 2 additional years. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Tim, and thanks, Frank, for all your work. Moves us on to new business number 4, which is a recommendation to adopt an updated resolution authorizing the city manager to pursue the sale of surplus city properties at 119, 121, 131, 201, 205, and 221 North Wixom Road, as well as 3343 and 3360 Renton, in accordance with sections 3.16.050, sale of economic development property of the Code of Ordinances. Do I have a motion?
Support.
Thank you. Assistant City Manager Benson.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll introduce this item just as a slight kind of refresher. City Council did authorize a resolution for city administration to pursue the sale of the aforementioned properties. For short, we call it the rent and redevelopment area, a collection of parcels that were put together first to facilitate development of Phase 2 of the airline trail, and then secondarily to facilitate a new development opportunity at one of the key corners of our downtown district. That original resolution was in 2023, and then in July of 2024, we approved a listing agreement to work with Savills. So tonight we do have Representatives Dan Jacobs and Pete McGrath from Savills here, in case there are any questions on that side. But suffice to say, over the last few months, they've been incredibly helpful in marketing this property, finding potentially interested developers, and helping us kind of really get to this point tonight. So tonight we have a presentation from Ferlito Group and Walters Group. Gentlemen would like to come up and kind of get set up. We've been working with them over the last couple months on a concept that they're interested in on this site. I'll really leave it to them to kind of overview what it is that they're proposing. We did include their concept plans in your agenda packet, and then they'll kind of be able to walk through some of the particulars. Just to sort of reiterate the big picture of what tonight's agenda item is we're simply looking for City Council's sort of preliminary feedback on the concept, and if you like what's being proposed, I think we're all collectively looking for your feedback, and then authorization of this resolution would just be to kind of reaffirm for us to more formally negotiate. From here, we would refine the plan, get the particulars of what a purchase/development agreement would look like, and I kind of outlined what those next steps would look like in the agenda item. So with that being said, we have Matt Walters and Mike Ferlito here tonight. Thank you, gentlemen. And I'll kick it over to you guys to sort of present, and we can do questions after that.
Thank you very much. And thank you for having us here tonight. My name's Matt Walters, and I'm from the Walters Group.
Michael Ferlito, the Ferlito Group.
We appreciate your time this evening and letting us present. As Drew mentioned, over the last few months, we've been working with city staff and the Savills Group on this Wixom Road site that obviously you and the city of Wixom own. As everybody knows, it's at the intersection of Pontiac Trail and Wixom Road. There's a map. There's a zoning map of the city of Wixom that shows civic, educational, golf course, place of worship, and park. You can see, I'll zoom in here so you can see where the site is again in relation to those zoning classifications that I just mentioned. So our proposal tonight is a apartment building, of which the Walters Group and, which the Walters Group and Ferlito Group have a lot of experience developing over the past several years. The Walters Group, we own industrial buildings, boutique office buildings, and several multifamily buildings in Southeast Michigan. I'm from Milford, so I'm very familiar with Wixom and this area. And later in the presentation, I'll talk about a project in Ferndale that I've been working on over the past few years that's very relevant to the size and scale of this site. Mike, you want to talk a little bit about Ferlito Group's experience?
Yeah, we've been developing multifamily pretty consistently from 2013 and onward, primarily in Southeast Michigan and Florida. My father, Tony, started the business in 1980, and he's been very involved actively to this day. We're also our own general contractor, investment office, and a property manager of commercial properties. We have a team of about 12 in the Ferlito Group office to help administer entitlements, and construction, and incentives. So we are pretty much a full circle development company that's been around since 1980. So super excited about this site. It's one of the best ones we have on the docket so far, and we're excited to present to you guys our concept.
So as Mike mentioned, how excited we are about this site. I think one of the best elements is obviously the public trail that wraps around the site. The fact that it goes all the way to South Lyon and to Telegraph to the east. So this is a site plan with the rendering. So we'll get into more of the project details, but as you can see, our thesis for the site is a retail building that is along Wixom Road here with the apartment building, residential that borders the northern end of the site. It's about 63 units of studios, 1 beds and 2 bedrooms in the apartment building, and then about 25,000 square feet of retail on Wixom Road. Our goal here is to build high-end, not luxury. I don't want to, oversell it or overplay it, but high-end, aesthetically pleasing, design first, because we know, how much work this body and the city has put into building up the downtown of Wixom over the years, and how much success you've had. So we would like to complement what you've already done with what you see on the screen here. There's a few more renderings of what we're proposing. So as you can see, 4 stories on the residential apartment building.
One key component of the multiple family building is that our zoning ordinance currently prohibits multiple family on the first floor of buildings within the VCA core zoning district. And what's interesting about their proposal, and I'm sorry if I'm stealing your thunder, but I just wanted to make sure that this gets covered, is that they propose to have parking for those residential units on the first floor. So a good portion of the first floor ends up being kind of covered parking, and then there's a large kind of lobby area. If nothing else, just wanted to say that was kind of an interesting idea that we hadn't seen before, so wanted to make sure that was highlighted.
Yeah, it's a great point to highlight. We feel that residents usually feel safer not being on the first floor, being on a second, third, or 4th floor. And so, as Drew mentioned, it's a podium-style building, so a lot of the parking is tucked underneath. So the second, third, and 4th floor are all wood-framed, and then the podium style is concrete and cast. So you'd have the lobby and the amenities to the building on the first floor, with then the parking tucked underneath. We have another site plan here that where we can show that. This is an image of the retail that's along Wixom Road. It is important to highlight that this second floor it's more high ceilings. From the first floor, it's a faux second floor, but we wanted to get height there to match other density that you have in the downtown area. It's really cost prohibitive to build out a second floor, and so to keep costs down and to make this economically feasible, it's high ceiling, so it looks like there's a second floor, but there's in reality there's not. Another image of that retail. So this is the site plan. I'll zoom in here to further discuss Drew's point about the parking being tucked under. So you can see there's the lobby of the building that's here. There will be an entrance from this indoor parking, but you would access the parking lot from Wixom Road. There will be residential parking out here as well, shared with the retail, but then you enter in off this western end of the building into this parking, which is on the ground floor. So just to go back to keep talking about the parking, there's 177 total parking spaces, 104 per the zoning code for residential, and then 73 spaces for the retail. We have right now in excess of 20 parking spaces. As I said, I'm sorry, I said 25,000 square feet of retail. There's 15,500 square feet of retail. And so if you chop each, if If you average that out, you could have about 7 bays at roughly 2,000 square feet apiece. As I said before, 63 apartments, studio 1 beds and 2 beds, majority of which are 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, and then a few studio apartments.
Just to accentuate the parking point a little bit, just, I'm gonna step into it real quick too.
Yeah.
I thought that the parking on the ground floor was pretty innovative in terms of meeting the requirements that we have for downtown, and at the same time, adding parking capacity, which was gonna be an issue for that many units. So that was a good use of space, and kudos to you for coming up with the idea. I think that's a good touch, because it accomplishes 2 things there, and it was something that impressed us when we saw the plans.
Definitely. It's something that we can promote and advertise when we are leasing apartments. Parking in Southeast Michigan, as we all know, is very important, especially with Wixom, because you have so many employment opportunities around here. People are driving to and from work. It's not, people that are living in this building are not just going to be sitting on their computers on Zoom. I'm sure there will be some, but I think many people will be going to using 96 and going to the various businesses that are located in Wixom for work. But then it also helps us with bank debt. I mean, the plethora of parking helps the project, helps us when we're talking to our bank or any lenders that'll be involved in the project. So it helps all around. And then there's also, having excess parking if there's whatever the retail uses are. If it's a Friday night or a Saturday night and there's a restaurant in there won't be retail patrons and residents at odds for parking spaces. So, just to highlight one, as I talked about in the beginning of the presentation, one project in Ferndale that we're working on now. We're about to break ground in the next month. It's 72 apartments, also studio 1 beds and 2 beds. Same architect, so it's an attractive building with masonry, brick masonry, and limestone on the first floor with about 1,700 square feet of ground floor retail. It's been a great project with the City of Ferndale. Oakland Housing Trust Fund is also involved in that project in the state of Michigan. And you can see, we're trying to build higher end housing here to make it attractive for all ages, really. That's the end of our presentation, but happy to take as many questions or comments.
Why do we have a separate apartment building and a separate commercial building, and why apartments, not condos? Because we're unique in this city that we've got too many apartments, and we've been selling this project, and all of a sudden we're telling people it's going to be part of a walkable downtown, we're going to have shops and stuff like that, and then we're throwing a 4-story apartment building up.
Yep, completely understand. So the first question about why the 2 different buildings. Usually we find that if you have heavy retail, it's best to make sure that there's a separation between tenants and the retail so that the uses, there's no friction between the 2 uses. It's also a lot more efficient from a construction perspective because of mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. It's easier for the constructability of the retail space to not have apartments on top, especially if you have a restaurant in the retail space. There's a lot of venting and mechanical ductwork associated with the restaurant, and having that go up to the roof, it's much more cost efficient to go up 1 story rather than go up the entirety of an apartment building. Before we get on the apartments, I don't know, Mike, if you want to touch on the split between the 2.
Yeah, so from a construction cost efficiency, the retail building, standalone building, is around $200, $225 a foot to build. That's pretty much all in, not including your TIs. You add a use on top of that, that jumps to $350. So that means your rents have to be 40 plus to make the project work. And doing our due diligence, market studies, looking around really the 23 corridor, the project wouldn't justify the rents that the market would grab. And so that's the main reason why we can't do the same building. The project just doesn't work.
Which, and so I'll add to that, the type of retail, type of tenant that we're looking for. Would we have a national brand in there? Maybe, but what we're really looking for is more local, entrepreneurial businesses. We think that that'll fit the Wixom, it's like Drafting Table. We think that that fit the downtown Wixom core, and we think that the residents of Wixom would appreciate that more. So in doing, to Mike's point, higher construction costs, you have to justify the expenses with the higher income. We don't know if we can achieve, $40 a square foot, $35 a square foot, like Mike said. Our performa on our underwriting, we're looking to, $20 a square foot, $25 a square foot. We think that's more achievable. Sir, to your point, Mayor, to your point about the apartments versus condos. Condos, when you're trying to build an attractive building that we think Wixom deserves, again, it's expensive. It's $300 a square foot all in, which means you're selling the condos at $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 a piece. It becomes very expensive, and what we find is that when people are spending $600,000, $700,000 in a condo, really what they're interested in is a single-family house. And so to justify the cost of building a building like this, apartments are really the only way that we think the site can really achieve the market. We also, with apartment buildings, you can go after low interest debt with the Michigan Economic Development Corporation or the Oakland County Housing Trust Fund, which is what I did in the Ferndale project. There are no incentives with the state of Michigan, Oakland County, or the various governments for condo projects.
Okay.
So the answer comes down to dollars and cents, really.
And with quarter-loaded condos, you need to have over 50% of them sold for a lender to finance a project. And there's no lender today that would ever finance a quarter-loaded project that are condos. I mean, if you look at the recent projects in Birmingham, which is probably the most affluent neighborhood in our community, it's all apartments. Nobody's building condos anymore. In the city, we were the first group in the city to do a quarter-loaded condo project since the bankruptcy, and it was successful, but it was extremely difficult, and the condos unfortunately had to be sold much more expensive than we originally intended. It just makes it for a much riskier project, and that will be impossible to finance.
Very good. Councilmember Gatchel?
Thank you. I agree, the 500,000 plus mark for a condo, you're looking more into the Royal Oak kind of downtown vibe, and we're not there yet, so.
I mean, Royal Oak, you can't even, no one's buying condos in $500,000, even Royal Oak. I mean, those condos that were built in early 2010s that look great.
They're selling above $1 million now.
Well, a lot of those condos are selling for $250,000 to $350,000.
Yeah.
And those are built with concrete, they're 6 stories high, they're really, really nice, obviously older finishes, but it's just the number that matters.
Yeah. It's nice to see a concept come before us. Kind of broken down into residential building and then the commercial building, will there be any planned amenities like gym, office space, anything like that for residents, or is it pretty much all unit space?
No, we'll definitely have amenities. Today's day and age, to be successful, to be competitive, there will most certainly be a gym. We will probably have, I don't want to call it a business center, because that probably makes it sound like too much, but we will have some space with 5 to 10 desks for people to do, take Zoom calls and whatnot. We'll probably have a bike storage room as well, since we're right off of this awesome trail, which I cannot highlight enough how great that makes this site. definitely there because of that, and the fact that I didn't really know about it, even though I'm both from the area. I didn't realize how long it stretched.
Yeah.
So anyway, definitely a bike storage room. Anything else that we can come up with that we think highlights that trail, and bring it into the building in some type of amenity, we will definitely be looking at that.
Okay. I noticed we didn't have a breakdown, I don't think, in our packet that said, here's the number of studio, 1 bed, 2 beds. Your presentation did have it, and I noticed there were 3 studios in there. Is that just because there's leftover space from the design of other units, or are you finding that we actually do need a market for 3 studio units in the building?
We like to design buildings that have several unit types, but we found in the last 3 years that studios that were the hottest unit type in every market have fallen wayside pre-COVID, so 1 bedrooms.
Yeah.
But there are always those few people that want a studio. So it's not because it's left over in the project, it's just we have to supply a unit type.
And this unit type count could fluctuate as we get in. We have a site plan, our architect has flushed out the massing, but once we get into how the MEPs are stacked, those numbers can fluctuate a little bit.
We haven't ordered I can't speak to that. We haven't ordered a market study yet to show what the highest demands are for this type of product. Sometimes the market study says 50% of the people need 2 bedrooms. Then we design more 2 bedrooms. So we haven't really sat and reviewed the data on exactly the unit count yet. This is just a blend of a couple projects that we're doing in Ferndale.
Okay. Is that something that would come back to us then for final approval?
Oh, absolutely, yes. You will, by the time we get to the point of like the development agreement, the whole thing will be fleshed out.
Okay.
Now, the only caveat to that is, and I did mention this kind of in the report, at the entitlement stage, like at some point or another, this will have to go through planning commission because you all own the property. You get first dibs on you're the decision makers of what kind of project we move forward with, whether, I'm not saying this will, but, let's say this ends up as a PUD, there's a million ways but you guys are the first stop. But it will have to also get through planning commission, so that'll be another kind of set of tweaks that, I guess there could be modifications after you see the development agreement, but in that scenario, you'd still see it. So to answer your question, you'll see it multiple times, but it'll be more fleshed out.
We really appreciated doing this because we've been in other communities where we don't have a chance to have this first meeting, and then we spend a bunch of time and a ton of money on pre-development and entitlement activities, spending money on an Alta survey, spending money on a marketing study, everything, all these little things, everything costs $2,000 to $5,000. An environmental study, a phase 1 and phase 2 environmental study. And then you get down the road and find out that nobody wants that at the site. So at this point in time, we've spent time, but we haven't spent real money yet. And so we appreciate having this audience. Because you guys tell, if you tell us, no way, we don't want an apartment building, no problem. We spent, we spent several hours with the team, obviously, with our architect, but we're not going to come out, we're going to lose $100,000 through all the pre-development and entitlement process.
The intent of what we designed here is what we were trying to achieve a project that created two things. Mini shopping, additional shopping district to drag the downtown north. But most importantly is density you need bodies in your downtown to kind of create that. And just having a bunch of, retail buildings and spots, it doesn't create the culture. If you have young families, so really it's gonna be young professionals and empty nesters living in the apartment building, which are, by the way, it's condo grade, by the way, which is basically commercial grade construction. It creates much more of a semblance of a real downtown.
Yep.
Do you have any idea on like the minimum square footages you'd be looking at for each of the unit types, even though we don't have final plans, like you said?
We can give you averages.
Yeah.
Our average studio is roughly 500 square feet. Our average 1 bed is 600, 750 square feet. Our average 2 bedroom is 800, 950 square feet.
Okay.
To build off what Mike was saying, we all know that buying a home is much more difficult today than it was 20 years ago. And so, you know, folks in their early 30s are delaying buying a home until their late 30s or 40s. So a higher end, I don't want to say higher end, but a nice apartment building that's built to condo grade really can attract your, you know, we're not saying this is just for college or, you know, folks after they graduate college. This is an apartment building for a 35-year-old who's, you know, working down the street at the logistics company, Renaissance, right?
And I will say you know, when we manage the property, there will be income requirements and background checks, and the minimum amount someone can make to live in this building is around $65,000 a year, and the two-bedroom renter would have to make around $100,000 a year to live in this building. So those are the types of people, from your nurses to your firemen that are living together to superintendents to people that work in this building. This is what this building is what it's being marketed for.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to the retail commercial building. To touch on your point of wanting to focus more on smaller businesses, locally owned, probably not brand name. The spaces right now, it says roughly 2,000. Is there any way to make those smaller if needed, or the minimum's gonna be 2?
It was 15,000 square feet, so I literally just
Divided. Okay.
divided. What's a healthy retail space? 2,000 square feet.
Okay.
Let's put it at 7 days. I mean, it's really going to come down to the market study and us
Okay.
working with Savills to see what kind of tenants that we can sign. You know, and I'm not saying we're not. You know, if a Chase Bank says, hey,
Yeah.
you know, we'd like to entertain 1,500 square feet, we're going to do that lease. And then doing a Chase Bank as an anchor then will allow us to say, okay, let's do a new restaurant concept with a restaurateur, restaurant opportunity, have their own space, or a dog pet shop,
Yeah.
or you know, some of those types of uses that are really good for a community that don't always have the opportunity.
And that's kind of what I'm thinking. I want to make sure we're not left too large to shy. That's a lot of like people worry about rent when they're a new business owner. They want to start their new business, and if we're too large on space,
Yeah.
and it's more than they think they need, then we don't get who we were hoping to get maybe. So
In the Ferndale deal, really quickly, the Ferndale project that we were referencing has 1,680 total square feet, and that's chopped into 2 spaces, so they're
Okay.
roughly 800 and 830, 840, and they're just strictly a white box space. There's no mechanical ducting, it's not for a restaurant or a coffee shop.
Okay.
Just a white box space that, you know, a local business, because the same thing, Ferndale, we were trying to really focus in on local businesses. So a local yoga studio, coffee shop, pet shop, like I mentioned, co-working space, could easily locate there.
QSR, oh, go ahead, sorry.
Go ahead.
So a lot of this space will be food-related. Coffee and QSRs will be around 1,200 square feet. Those are your Beyond Juices and some of your local regional coffee shops. They'll come here for delivery service and walk-in service. The corner space that's off of the park, we're envisioning 3,000 square feet. That's going to be your full restaurant for your community. So, and then we're hoping that a service like a vet will come in, or a bank to anchor on the other side, and then the infill would be more of the community, walk around, the coffee, the ice cream shop, and maybe a bar, little bar or two.
The exterior of that building, I'm a little bit, like, it looks nice, but it kind of gives, it's a little bit plain, gives a little bit of like converted old warehouse vibes, being that it's just a solid brick rectangle right now. I don't know if we can maybe add some embellishments, or the Ferndale example, I think you said had limestone.
Yeah.
on the first floor. Maybe we won't need to go all the way up, but right now it just seemed a little plain. Not to say that that building exists in the 1920s
Yeah.
built downtown, but
It's very easy for us to.
Yeah, I'd
this is
like-
just- This is a concept.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you give us, if everybody has their own priorities, we can easily do those.
Okay.
Our architect is, Krieger Platt,
Okay.
AKA, they're really, really top, first class. They do mixed-use projects all over Southeast Michigan. They're located in, Royal, the office in Royal. But very easy to take your thoughts and make them a project.
Thank you. The last thing, and it's part for you, part for discussions ongoing, and part maybe for planning commission, but I know they love their parking spots, so they probably won't enjoy this comment, but I'm still not a fan of the on-street there. I think it's too close to the intersection, and it's gonna create more backlog than we already get there. People trying to back out or wait for somebody to back out so they can pull in. Across the street here, it's a little bit further away from the intersection, so traffic flows a little bit more freely, and you have the light to break it up at City Hall campus, and people can kind of get in and out. But there, people are gonna be either racing to beat the light, or they're gonna be stopped at the light, and I think backing in or like backing out is gonna become an issue. So I'm not a giant fan of the on-street there, but we'll see what.
I just have a quick comment on that. The only reason why we did that is we're not a super fan of it either, even though it's very convenient for our retailers, is that you have a 80-foot setback from the center of the road. I think it's 80?
60 from center line.
60? So that kind of takes away the parking. Not kind of. I'm saying this all wrong. If we abide by that 60-foot setback, which we will, we lose a ton of spaces, and then we are parking spot deficient for the development. That's the reason why the parking's up front.
Yeah, we had a discussion about another development recently about parking spot over efficiency, we would say. And so that's why I know it'll be a discussion for planning and whatnot, but even if we allowed a waiver to be deficient or a waiver to be closer to, or closer to the road than the setback allows, I would almost be more of a fan of that than creating more of a traffic issue than we have. So I know there's gonna be a lot of kind of people working on this and talking about it, but I at least want to share that up front. So,
We're open.
Yeah.
thank you.
This is more of a question for our chiefs out there. This first floor parking is unique to us. Would you guys have an issue with that by trying to get emergency vehicles in if there's something going on in there, or?
Fire department vehicles will not fit.
Okay, so that's something that you're gonna have to take into consideration then is, have some fire suppression or whatever,
Yeah.
so they can,
The building will be fully sprinkled, including the parking area, so.
but if we had a car fire in the garage, let's say, we couldn't get a fire truck down there, so.
Well, the width of the buildings, they're not that wide, and they're still fully sprinkled. And we do this in a lot of communities. We've never had an issue with the
Okay,
fire
just-
fire marshal.
Yeah, but there's always the first time.
Yep, for sure. It'll be sprinkled. So
All right. Councilmember Behrman?
Thank you. Well, I echo some of the comments earlier. I really hated the idea of sealing another apartment building, but this does appear to be substantially different than any other product we have in our city. I think if the apartment building was concretely tied in the development agreement, i.e. they can't build it and open it unless the retail is also built and open, I mean, I could see going along with it.
Oh, we would build all this at the same time.
Yeah, I would hope, but
Yeah.
you never know, right?
Efficiency.
I also don't like the on-street parking, and I'm curious, was it even discussed of the possibility, because I know we discussed it amongst council, of realigning the trail to be on the front of the development, and then that would give you more space for parking in the back of the development. And I know that was discussed at length with council, and I'm kind of disappointed if the city didn't share that with you.
I feel like we
They
mentioned-
probably did, and we didn't hear it, but we hear you now, and we'll take it into consideration.
Because I, for one, I mean, I like how the trail wraps around it, but I think we could really nicely highlight the trail in front of the development and give you the space you need in the back, so we're not creating a safety issue out front.
Yep. Makes sense.
We will explore it. How much is there an easement on that trail area? Is it city-owned, county-owned?
Yeah, we own all of it.
You know. Yeah, we'll take it.
I mean, the biggest thing would be, however, it needs to be realigned to make the turn not tight, and however it can tie back into the gazebo. But,
We most likely will use Gibbles Webster for our civil engineer, so we'll work with them to make sure that anything that we're proposing is realistic. And we'll meet the standards that the city of Wixom and its residents will have.
and then with regards to the parking conversation, maybe this is more of a conversation for our city staff, but you know, when we did discuss parking at length in February, I mean, they were looking for 311 spaces for 70 units. And now we have a development that is 63 units plus 15,000 commercial space for 177 parking spaces. Have we gotten any kind of consensus on what we're asking for from our ordinance?
Yeah, I would say, and not to rehash that whole last conversation, but I do think the conclusion was that other project was significantly, wildly overparked. I mean, just by, in that particular scenario, just for your guys' edification.
I just want to make sure that moving forward, like when we get things, like you guys are on the same page now, and it's going to be reviewed with that standard.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm just saying this so that they understand what we're talking about, because you probably don't. That scenario is, it's a condo townhouse project, and it was a discussion about units, so they had garages, so it was counting garage spaces. That's what he's referencing, but in this particular case, because there aren't garage spaces, it's easier math, I'll just say that.
Yeah, that's 4 spaces per
4.5.
That's a lot, yeah.
But that being said, I like the retail concept out front is what we wanted. I understand the support for the apartment building to go with it to help support the retail. The parking seems in line. I roughly counted like the parking spaces in the complex for Country Corners looks to be about 120 parking spaces there for a similar sized building. So it may be tight depending on what goes in there, but if there's any way to rework the trail to add more parking, I do think that might be something to look at.
Yeah.
Just to make it more aesthetically pleasing and safe.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Resnick?
Thank you, Mayor. I was also going to bring that up, that not a big fan of the angled on-street parking, and why don't we just eliminate the trail in back and move the whole development over? The other thing that it might facilitate would be maybe the cafe outdoor seating space wrapping around the north side and the south side of the building, so you have something adjacent to Sibley Park there as well. If it could be moved up and back a little bit.
Sorry. You mean this area?
Yeah, wrap it around so that at the south end of the building, you can have cafe seating there as well.
Yeah, that's what we're intending. I don't know how it fell off this. I think it's out of the way. I just want to make sure I understand. So you're referring to right here?
The south end, right there, yep. That little. Wrap it around, yeah.
Yes.
And then just to comment on, I see where your dumpster well is right there. We see at the Western Retail and the Country Corners development, having the dumpster well at the far end of the property works out much better, especially if there's restaurants involved, because of the grease and the food waste, and not having it right up against the retail building there.
Sorry, so where are you suggesting?
Maybe where your number, go a little bit, yep, there, or even further up halfway, yeah, somewhere up in that area.
Okay.
And in fact, right there would be almost directly across the tracks from where the other one is. Yeah, Country Corners, would, I mean, lining it up with that might not be a bad idea.
Yeah.
There are restaurants, there are different.
The dumpster for this building will be actually in Central Building.
What he's talking
I'm about that one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
We do have one at least hidden inside the property.
Other than that, I think Councilman Gottschall covered all the other points I had. The egress in and out, it'd be very, very difficult to make a left out of there onto northbound Wixom Road. So the width of that egress point might be something to consider. Allow someone who's going to be waiting a long time to make a left.
Yeah.
Allow a person that wants to go right and south on Wixom Road to be able to do it immediately.
So you're saying make sure it's 3 lanes wide?
Yeah.
So that there's a left-hand turn lane, and that somebody can enter in and go out to the south?
And all you have to do is sit there at the elementary school when it gets.
I'm gonna take your word for it. I'm gonna take your word for it.
And then one final question I had for you, since you said you reside in Milford then?
No, not anymore. My parents still do, so I go every.
That development along the railroad tracks there.
The old lumberyard,
Yeah, are those rental apartments or
Yeah.
those condos?
old apartments.
Okay, and they're a similar price structure, you think?
I don't know the answer to that. I just know that they're apartments.
Because I know, like the Shearwater development across Beck Road bills
Yeah.
itself as a luxury apartment.
Yeah, see, I don't know if I love the word luxury.
But it
I
does
like
attract.
nice quality. Luxury is kind of off-putting to,
Overused word.
yeah.
Yeah, it is, but, yeah, I think it's easier to sell in this community, as many other members here have said, that the community's always been opposed to any rental units that are north of Pontiac Trail, and that's just been historically true, so.
Got it. So it makes sense. Yeah, it's the old Iverson's lumberyard.
Yeah, yeah. Those are rental though.
Yeah, they are rental, yeah.
I think everything else has been covered from the other council, so thank you very much. Very unique concept.
Thank you.
Parking.
Councilmember O'Day?
I'll be brief. No, again, I echo a lot of the other sentiments. I think it looks really great. I'm guessing, but would like clarification with regard to the retail space, that you can enter from both sides, if you will, like a lot of downtown type walkable retail spaces and even what we have currently, where you can enter the retail spaces from the front of the building and the back of the building. So if we didn't have the angled parking, you wouldn't have people walking around the building, obviously, correct?
Correct.
Okay, all right. And not that, I mean, I don't love the angled parking, but I do get it too, as you mentioned, for some of the, if it's a coffee shop, quick in and out, right?
Yeah.
So maybe, I don't know, again, depending on how many establishments you end up getting in there, just reviewing the need there. But I also recognize with Wixom Elementary gone, we lose a considerable amount of traffic that we might have on the road during the daytime as well. So it's more of like a case study kind of thing, I guess I would say. And then lastly, as you just articulated, maybe just referring to them as high-end apartments, I think, because as you mentioned, a particular price point to just ensure the residents of, you know, who they're going to be living with as well, but avoiding luxury or, you know, that kind of thing. Although it looks to me like you could even have a rooftop little area up there as well if you were so inclined.
Rooftop pool, rooftop bar, whatever, yeah, you know,
I
we're
was
open
just
to
thinking,
it.
you know,
Why not
lay
both?
out, but, you
Hey,
know.
rooftop bar
Bar in the roof.
Permitted use by right, just saying.
Can I ask one question based on your comments? Well, actually, many comments. Would you only want to see market rate housing? Would you want to see workforce housing associated with the project? And when I say workforce housing, I mean like a market rate apartment in Southeast Michigan for a one-bedroom is roughly $1,800 to $2,000 a month. Workforce housing is usually a slight discount, so 80 to 100% AMI would be roughly $1,400, $1,500, $1,600 for a one-bedroom. Are you, since this is an exploratory conversation, would you be open to workforce housing or only market rate housing?
Market.
I guess, are you talking about offset through grants at the state or federal level then to help with affordable housing?
Yeah, I don't want to say this.
Well, not, but like, okay, but it's below market rate.
Actually, so they're just income restricted, which means
Yeah.
that a one-bedroom that we're going to be leasing for $1,700 a month goes to someone that makes $60,000 or $70,000 a year, and doesn't go to somebody that's making $200,000 a year. What we're talking about and the way we want to structure this, it allows people a fair chance to live in a building that should be able to live in this building, but because of current construction costs that are never coming down, they're able to live there.
If you're discussing just limiting some units to, or limiting who can rent them by income, then I would be open to that. I mean, I think as much as we like to talk about the, like, logistics companies and the sort of jobs we have around here, we also have a lot of jobs where the people who work in Wixom can't afford to own a home in Wixom. So I think that would be a nice change if we can have some housing for them. So.
To answer your question about incentives, it allows us to go after MISHDA housing too.
Yeah.
Which helps the financing of the project considerably. It allows the project to be higher end, so it's the same quality, same finishes, you know, everything we presented today. Because construction costs are so high.
40% increase from 2019. And with the tariff talk, we have no idea how much higher they're going to get. So, and I'm going to be frank with you guys and transparent. There's no way a building like this can get built anywhere in Southeast Michigan, maybe Northville, maybe Birmingham, nowhere else without an incentive in place. So we're even talking to Royal Oak about incentives, and they're happy to have the conversation where 2 years ago or 3 years ago, they're like, not in my town. So it's a conversation we're having with 7 to 10 municipalities at the same time if you guys want these buildings in your communities, it's got to be a pure public-private partnership, and along with the state, not just the local municipality.
But just again to reinforce, we're not talking about affordable, high-tech housing. We call it attainable workforce housing. It's a slight discount from the market rate, and it's targeted for $70,000, $80,000, $90,000 incomes. So don't need any. I just wanted to at least ask the question.
The one thing I just do want to add, in the big picture, we wanted to make sure we got through, a conversation like this tonight to make sure this is a concept that you want. We will have a whole separate conversation about what kind of incentive package between the city, the MEDC, MISHDA. I anticipate there being, this might be our most complicated project that we've done here. And I do believe, and I don't want to speak for you guys, but I believe you believe that we can find the right deal that works. And so you'll see this again as it relates to those tools, or whatever tools we end up using. So we'll also have a better handle on what the structures of those might be, what the income restrictions if such a tool is pursued. But I guess just to sort of put a cap or a finer point on it, there will be, this project requires some levels of public-private partnership.
I think it drew a hard time about his wording. We're not trying to get through this conversation. That sounds painful. We had the opportunity to have this conversation.
That's first step oriented,
Well, I'll be honest with you guys, when I first saw this, I was kind of disappointed. because I was expecting more commercial, less residential, and I didn't want to use the word apartment, only for the fact that, like we said, you know, apartment's kind of a bad word around here with the apartments that we have and that, but after this presentation tonight and seeing this, you kind of get me to change my mind a little bit, so I'm interested to see what comes forth after this day, but
Thank you very much.
you're welcome.
I just have to say, because I've never been in front of this body before, I grew up on, as I said, Buno Road, Southville. Lion Oaks, the best public golf course in South.
Thank you.
I grew up on that golf.
Golfed it last year. I couldn't believe how beautiful it was.
Yeah.
I know somebody that works there, so, but Lion Oaks is only a portion in Wixom, though most of it's Lyon Township.
I
though,
didn't
so-
know that.
Yeah, just like,
I didn't know that.
just like the cricket fields and that are in Wixom. Everything else is Lyon Township, yeah. But it's got Wixom mailing address, so we'll take it.
That's right. All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome. All right, so I got a motion and recommendation to adopt the updated resolution authorizing the city manager to pursue the sale of surplus city property at 119, 121, 131, 201, 205, and 221 North Wixom, as well as 3343 and 3360 Renton, in accordance with sections 3.16.050, sale of economic development property of the Code of Ordinances. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you. That moves us to the second call, concludes the business portion of the meeting tonight, moves us to the second call to the public. Those rules again are: the public shall address the council during the call to the public, which shall be included on the agenda immediately after correspondence, again immediately after new business. The first call to the public immediately after correspondence shall be limited to agenda items only. A person shall not address the council in excess of 5 minutes unless the time is extended by a majority vote of the council present. Persons wishing to address the council shall identify themselves and their place of residence and shall state their reason for addressing the council, and all comments by the public shall be made directly to the council. Do we have anybody for the second call to the public tonight?
Russ Meredith, 378 Fletcher. I just want to say I'm really excited. As a member of the Board of Directors for the DDA, not on behalf of the DDA, just myself, I'm really excited to see that you guys are willing to go along with investigating this project and see where we can go with it. And I really think it has the potential to really help downtown. So thank you very much, and thank you to the guys that came out to talk about it.
Thanks, Russ. Anybody else for the second call to the public? Seeing none, I'll close the second call to the public. We move on to city manager's comments. City manager, hey, you don't have any tonight, so.
Yeah, definitely not.
Do you have any comments?
I do not.
Deputy Mayor, Deputy Manager Benson.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have two. First, I wanted to let you guys know that we did close on the donation of 1540 North Wixom on Thursday. So it was a remote closing with the seller, so I don't think the PTA, the property transfer affidavits come through, but just to say, I know we got the one of the other easements, so I think, I don't know where Tim went. I think we only have one left, one easement left. I know
think
that.
one.
Yeah, so I just wanted to point that out. It took a long time, but we're excited. That worked out, and Frank already left too, but I was just gonna give Frank a shout out for all the work that he did on the kind of behind the scenes on the security project that you all reviewed tonight. He didn't speak much, but he did a lot of work really getting the bids together, giving us options, and coordinating all of the departments. So I just wanted to give him a shout out. And that's all I have.
Very good. Council comments. Councilmember Gatchel. Councilmember Behrman.
I guess I'll just clarify what Drew asked. So you said there's one parcel remaining to
There's
put that
one easement remaining.
or one easement with a sidewalk and bridge in. How much longer do we have on that bid to get that parcel, to get that done?
I would defer to Tim or Mike. Oh, neither of them are here. We'll follow up with you. I don't know the exact answer. I think we're doing fine though. We've been in communication with the vendor. They know where we're at with it.
Thank you.
Councilmember O'Day.
No comment.
Deputy Mayor Resnick.
I just have one thing. Thank you, DPW and team, for the Household Hazardous Waste Day. It was another success. I think there was close to 1,000 people that participated, so it's always good to clean out the garages on those days. So thanks to Tim and team. That's it.
Very good. And I just want to say thank you to Deputy Mayor for covering for me last meeting while I was out of town. Sounded like a fun meeting with the Girl Scouts and the nice Pledge of Allegiance and things like that. And then thank you, Marilyn, for the reading material for the next week. I'm sure we'll study up, and if we got any questions, we'll give you a call. And with that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Support.
I got a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.